Today we are going to be painting some little gingerbread cookies, and I thought this was a fun thing to do since you don't really see people painting them that often. I'm a little stuffed up, sorry, still getting over a cold, but hopefully it's not too annoying to you. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is grab our watercolor paper. I am using Arches block. Now, this is not the most inexpensive watercolor paper. There is Strathmore and Canson, that are a little more cost effective, and those can be purchased on from Michael's craft store or Amazon. I love Arches because the paper is amazing, and I work on a watercolor block, so it is more expensive. I think this cost me about $57, but I cannot tell you how big the difference is from working with really good paper. But if you're just learning, I totally understand. You probably don't want to spend a ton on your watercolor paper, so check out those other ones that I mentioned. I'll also make links to them in the notes for this video. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to sketch out our little cookies. And we're gonna do a couple different ones. The first one we're going to do is a gingerbread man, so just the classic. One other thing I want to mention. So today we are using watercolors, and I'm also going to be using bleed proof white for the frosting on our painting. You can use this. You could also, once your watercolor is dry, you could use a white gel pen, or if you have gouache, you could use white gouache. Even white watercolor paint would work, but this is my go-to on my watercolor paintings. It's not permanent, so if water hits it, it can come off, but it really is opaque and a really good white. All right, back to our drawing. So we're going to we're gonna draw the gingerbread man. Now, the way I like to think of it is 5 circles. So the top circle is obviously going to be the head, and it's larger. Then we're gonna have a circle for the hand, a circle for the hand over here, and for the feet. And then I kind of just connect them. So doop. Almost like a star. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then just kind of outline them. All right, so that is our gingerbread man. And then the second one we're gonna do is a snowman. So that's going to be a top hat and 3 circles. So for the top hat, just make a rectangle. And I always mention this in my videos, but you might wanna draw really light. That way the pencil marks don't show through the watercolor. I'm drawing darker so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm making a square, and also use a pencil that's HB, because that's gonna be one of the softest ones, so it's not so harsh. So I made kind of like a square rectangle here, and then I'm making a really thin rectangle for the hat. And then I'm actually gonna do a half circle. I mean, almost a whole, it's like 3/4 of a circle. Then the second one is a little bit bigger, and the third one is really big. Okay. Then we are going to do one of those cute little Scottish Terrier dogs, because they're always on the shortbread cookies tins, and they're so cute. So this one's kind of a little tough to draw. Maybe bring up a picture for yourself. So this is a little snout. I'm making just a little curve, and then they usually have a little tuft of fur right here. And then their ear is usually going forward, so a little triangle, and come back. Definitely pull up a picture. I'm sorry, I don't have one for you. And then their little snout is kind of squared off, and it goes up. Their chest comes down. They have those short little legs, and a little back, and a cute little tail, and like this, little tuft of fur, kind of square off the back leg. His head looks a little bit small. That's okay. We're just having fun. You get what he is. Okay. And then we are going to do a star. I don't know what's on my paper there. So a star, really simple. You can either draw your star like this and then outline it and erase those. I'm just gonna kind of freehand it. And these would be great if you want to cut them out, and you can put them on little gift tags, or you could paint a card with them. Star, and then the last one we're going to do is a Christmas tree. So Christmas tree is just a triangle essentially, but I'm actually going to indent mine a little bit. All right, so we have our basic shapes. Feel free to draw any more shapes that you might want to. I mean, it's endless what you could do, but these are just some basic ones that we're gonna have today. We're gonna mix up our color. So we want a color that looks like gingerbread, cookie color. I'm grabbing yellow ochre. I love yellow ochre. Grab a good amount of that. Just placing it in my well here. And we want to mix up a good amount of this because we have a lot of cookies to paint. Once we have a good amount of yellow ochre, bring in some, I think this is burnt sienna over here, a brown that has a little red tint to it. And if you don't have a brown with a red tint, which most browns do have a red tint, but if you don't, bring in a little bit of red. It takes a while to wake up your paints again. All right. Bring in that red. I'm actually going to grab a little Scarlet Lake and bring it in here because I want it to be a little redder. And then if you feel like, oh wow, that's too red, you want to bring in the opposing color. So the opposing color to red would be green. Or you can use black, but I think that the opposing color neutralizes it more. So I'm bringing in a little green just to not make it so red. And I'm pretty happy with that color. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna grab pigment on our brush. Your brush should never be dripping with paint. If it is, it's way too much paint. We're gonna come over here and we're going to outline. And your paint should flow pretty easily. I'm using a size 6 brush, but you might wanna use a size 4. I can tell that paint is getting a little too dry, so I'm just coming in here with water to make sure it stays wet because I want it to flow once I fill it in. So I'm grabbing more pigment and going along the outside of this little gingerbread man. Okay, now that he's totally outlined, I'm gonna rinse off my brush and I'm grabbing only water. Today I'm only working with 1 water cup because we're only using this kind of brown color, so I'm not concerned about the water getting really murky. Now I'm gonna come in just with that water and lightly touch these edges. And what should happen is it should kind of start flowing, the paint. And I just do that until we cover everything. We're gonna put a couple layers. So this is our first layer. And as you can see, what we're going for is these dark edges are going to make it look like our cookie, right? Because the cookie gets crispy on the outside and doesn't get so brown on the inside. So we're just gonna go ahead and paint all of these, and I'm gonna paint these with you. I'm not gonna speed it up. But again, you're just outlining the different shapes. I had never eaten I guess I ate a gingerbread cookie when I was little and I hated it. And so I've just always thought that I hated gingerbread. But then I made my husband and I gingerbread houses to decorate this year, and I tasted it and it's delicious. Oh my gosh, they taste so good because I love all those spices. So I definitely like gingerbread cookies now. It's funny how you're a little kid and you just assume that you hate something. You got to try it again when you're an adult. All right. So for this guy, I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush because it has some smaller details. So I am grabbing my size 4 brush, grabbing some pigment, and just outlining him. What's your guys' favorite Christmas cookie? Tell me in the comments. I would love to know. There's so many. I definitely grew up in a house where my mom never baked because just sugar is not the best for us. But of course, when you're celebrating the holidays and stuff, it's okay to indulge. But chocolate chip was probably the only cookie that my mom ever made, and they were delicious, and it was a rare thing. So when we did get chocolate chip cookies, it was amazing. So that's kind of my favorite. But oh, you know what? I love shortbread too. Okay, so like I said, we're just going in, cleaning off our brush now that we have it outlined, and I just have water on my brush, and I'm touching it, and you see how it's kind of bleeding, and I'm just pulling the color through. And I like to do, I know if you guys have watched my other videos, I like to do multiple layers because it just adds interest to your painting and it makes it look more realistic. All right, time for the Christmas tree. But because I paint in layers, a lot of times I have to pause the video and use my blow dryer. So just know that, like, I don't want to grab my blow dryer and have you guys listen to it. So you're gonna have to probably pause the video for that part. It's so relaxing when the paint blends into the water. And if you'll get, over time when you paint, you'll start to notice little things, but if you notice that your outline is starting to get really dry, but you haven't finished it yet, just go and grab some water and get water on it, because otherwise you're gonna just get a really hard line. You're not gonna get it to blend like this. Okay, our last one. If you guys have any suggestions on watercolor tutorials that you would like to see, I would love to hear them. Please comment about them because it's helpful for me to know what you guys are looking for. I'm working on making a watercolor course. It has been in the works for a while. I'm in the wedding industry, so the wedding industry just exploded. So my watercolor course took a back seat, but it is something that I really want to do. It'll be for beginners and it will cover everything you can think of. I struggled when I first started watercolor, I actually hated it. So it's important to me to make a really comprehensive course. Okay, so we have our first base layer down and we are going to, you can either pause this video and let it dry. You're gonna know it's dry when it's matte, so it's not shiny anymore. Or what you can do is go grab a blow dryer and blow dry it. I'm gonna blow dry it, so I'm going to cut the video right here and I'll be right back. All right, we are back, and as you can see, these cookies look like they need to stay in the oven longer. So we are going to add another layer. And I'm actually going to mix up some more color because I didn't do quite enough last time. And I'm gonna darken it because we want these gingerbread cookies to look like they have a ton of cinnamon in them and cloves and that they've been in the oven for a while. Because cinnamon or gingerbread cookies are supposed to be crisp. Thank you, Great British Baking Challenge, for showing me that. I am going to add a touch of black just to darken it a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. I want it to still have that honey toned color. I don't want it to be like a bluish color. Okay, so this is our last layer that we're gonna do. You could do multiple layers if you want to, more than 2, but for today, just for time and we're just gonna do 2. Okay, so we're back to the same thing. We're doing an outline on the outside. Make sure that your paint stays wet. I can tell that mine's getting dry, so I'm gonna grab some water just to make sure that I get it to blend in well. And feel free to poke in more color if you want more color. You can do whatever you want. I'm just giving you the basic guidelines. So we're just painting around the edges. Rinsing, I just have water and I just touch on the outside. Okay. And I'm actually gonna poke in some more color here because I just want it to be a little darker. And since this is all wet, it should just blend in pretty well. You can tell that's getting dry, so I'm just gonna add water. These are looking much better, like they were in the oven for the appropriate amount of time. I love this time of year because the Great British Baking Show is on. I don't know if you guys watch that, but it is amazing. It's just like the most good-hearted, happy show. I just love it. All right, we're making this little Scottish Terrier. They're so cute. I have a corgi, so I have a short-legged dog. I have a special place in my heart for dogs with short legs. Okay, just coming in with water. And if you want your cookies to be really light, you can totally make them really light too. You don't have to make them this dark. I like them this dark because it's more of a contrast when we put the white on, when we put the frosting on. Okay, now we're on the Christmas tree. Rinsing my brush, adding in water. Like I said, you can use these for little gift tags. You can cut them out from the watercolor paper and glue them on a gift tag, or you could paint them directly on a gift tag, but you need to use watercolor paper when you do watercolor painting. If you don't, it won't turn out good. It needs to, because watercolor paper is super thick. Like, it's 140-pound paper. That's the lowest that you should be working with. And because of that, it's cotton and it soaks in the water. If you use computer paper, which I've seen people do before, you will not get this texture. It won't soak in the water. It'll be a hot mess. So you have to use watercolor paper when painting with watercolor. Okay, I'm gonna let these dry and then I'll be right back and we will add the bleed proof white or whatever white you have. Again, you could use a gel pen, you could use gouache if you have white gouache, even acrylic if you have white acrylic ink, but this flows really nicely and I love this stuff. All right, here we are, and I am opening up my bleed proof white. Now with bleed proof white, if you are using it, you do need to add some water until it's the consistency that you want, just so you know. So the way you'll tell if the consistency is right is just have a scrap piece of paper and see how the I guess it's paint flows off of your pen blah, 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 brush. Okay, so we're gonna start over here with our little gingerbread man. And if you guys have ever seen gingerbread cookies with the frosting kind of just outlines him. You can make faces and all that stuff if you want, but I'm just coming in here and outlining where the frosting would go. This is just a really simple, fun painting little craft. But I think that it has a big impact because, I don't know, I think it's so cute. So I'm just making a line. So you want your frosting to not be on the complete edge. You want it to be in just a little bit so you can tell that somebody came in here and frosted the outside of it. Paint him like this. And then if you want, you can add in, I'm gonna do some buttons. Cute. All right, next is a snowman. I'm gonna make a line across for his little top hat. And then the square. And again, if you want, you can make his face if you want. See how the opacity is so good on this white? I love the bleed proof white. I use it on a lot of my watercolor paintings. You can actually do calligraphy with it too, but it is not waterproof, so I don't really recommend it for something like envelope calligraphy. I'm gonna do buttons here. I'm gonna do the little coal smile and maybe a little carrot nose. Okay, and eyes. Next we have our cute little terrier. He has these little hair tufts up here. Just really basic. Basically, I'm just painting this line all the way around. There's not a lot of technique here. If you're struggling with this, you just need practice to get your kind of the muscle memory to be able to keep your hands still while you're painting these lines. Don't be too hard on yourself. Everything just takes time. If you know somebody that's good at something, they probably spent hundreds of hours getting good at it. And you have something. If this isn't your thing right now, it very well could be in the future. But also there's probably a lot of things that you're really good at that other people aren't good at, or they're trying to learn. So even if you're a beginner right now, you'll get to where you want to go. You just have to keep going. Just a little, making this little triangle here. All right, and our very last one is the star. I think I'm gonna put some little sprinkles on this star. And I know that I'm going fast, but go slow if you need to go slow. It's okay. And then I'm just gonna do those like big circle sprinkle things. I don't know what they're called, nonpareils or something. I remember one year in our art class, this girl made the most beautiful cookies with these like edible glitters. I don't know what they were, but it was really cool. That's the thing I remember the most about art class. Okay, there we go. We have our gingerbread cookies. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I love it when you guys share what you create on Instagram and tag me. You can tag me at Lavender and C. I love to see what you create, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching.